We went to go see the movie, the new movie Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayers, and it was a very, very disappointing movie.
Yeah, it's probably one of my worst or least favorite superhero movies.
This movie, I have read tons of places, and I've barely seen any bad reviews over it. Like anybody talking
for the audience.
Audience reviews. Like I go on Facebook or something, I see people talking great about this movie. Like, how do you like this movie?
But I hate Batman vs Superman. It felt like a music video, like a 2-hour long music video.
It's almost like a lot of this movie was like, oh, Batman vs Superman didn't do very good. Oh, this is kind of a crappy movie too. Let's just add as much weird crap, random bright colors. Random choices of music placed in wrong spots. Maybe the audience will like it because we have good songs. And then they're all, I think, they all want something out of the group. And I can't remember what everybody is. I know Will Smith wants to go see his daughter for like a little bit, and then like Killer Croc wants like a TV or some crap now. And
don't forget BET.
Yeah. Hey guys, thank you so much for crawling on over here to Two Awesome Men. Yesterday we decided to go watch. We just watched it at home. We just decided to go over to our couches to watch this movie, the Suicide Squad. I do feel like you can't talk about the Suicide Squad without talking about Suicide Squad from 2016.
Yeah, and one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah, if you've known us since back then, you would probably know because we bring it up here and there how much we hate Suicide Squad. And just that big warning, in my opinion, I don't think Suicide Squad maybe isn't the worst movie ever made. I don't know, but it definitely brings out, it's definitely my least favorite movie of all time. And I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but it's a movie that brings out a lot of anger in me. I have the utmost hatred for that movie.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah, and I say this all the time. I like 3 seconds of the entire movie. Whenever she turns into Enchantress, she like flips her hand over, you know?
Yeah.
And she becomes Enchantress. The 3 seconds that her hand flips over, it looks kind of cool. And that's the only 3 seconds I like of that movie.
Right.
Everything else in that movie is pure garbage, and I can't stand it. But I feel like we shouldn't go on a huge rant, because if we go on a huge rant, it's just going to become a huge Suicide Squad 2016
video. Which we have a rant on our video. It's like 51 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's one of our first videos. It was our first year.
Yeah, it was our first year.
So it's not like that well of a video.
Yeah.
But it still has a lot of our thoughts in it.
It definitely conveys our feelings. And also, it's if you watch it, it's pretty funny because like it starts off with us trying to be calm, but as the video goes on, we get angrier and angrier at the movie, and we start shouting.
They just felt like they placed some scenes like they're like, let's just stick this in here and maybe it'll make sense. Maybe it'll make sense to people who've read comics, but to the regular, everyday moviegoer, it's not going to make any sense at all what's going on.
I just didn't understand that at all. It didn't make any sense. A lot of this movie, I'm going to say it again, I know I've said this a few times, a lot of this movie does not make sense. I don't know how you can say this is a good, cohesive movie. It doesn't make sense at all. So yeah, we'll put the link in the description of that video if you want to go check it out. To Suicide Squad 2016. But we do hate that movie with all of our heart and soul. And so going into this movie, and obviously it's James Gunn, so we are like, well, James Gunn is. You know, I don't think I've really seen a lot of James Gunn movies.
Yeah, I know he made like some movie called Slither, which I haven't seen. That was one of his first movies.
I know he made some movie called Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I think it's an unknown movie.
Yeah,
it's pretty well. It's pretty unknown.
Some indie film, man.
He also wrote the live action Scooby Doo movies.
That's right. I forgot about that. He did make the live action Scooby Doo movies.
Well, he didn't make them, but he wrote them.
He wrote them. Yeah. And so I kind of felt whenever I first heard about it, I was kind of excited. I'm like, okay, this could be a good idea because James Gunn obviously is good for making like team up comedies of people with like very gray morals, you know. And so I thought it'd be a pretty interesting choice. But when the trailers came out, I really was not happy. Yeah, really like all the trailers I didn't really like for this movie. I didn't feel like the comedy worked that well. It just didn't look that good. Yeah, it kind of dampened my excitement for it. Yeah, and so I was like, you know what, like it's just gonna come out, I'll see it, but I'm not like excited about it because like all the jokes they just felt like they weren't gonna fit. They felt like they didn't do well. They felt like they weren't gonna do well. They felt like they're all gonna fall flat. I'm like, it's not gonna be that good. And we watched it yesterday, and I love the Suicide Squad 2021.
Yeah, not 2016. It is kind of confusing. Yeah. Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad.
So we loved the Suicide Squad. We watched it yesterday on HBO Max. We just want to talk about it a little bit because, like I said, this movie I wasn't expecting it to be that good, you know, at all. And then going at it from the very beginning of it, I was like, okay, this movie's got me hooked.
Yeah, because the comedy and the very first few scenes worked really well.
Yeah.
And it is kind of cool because this movie's not really a reboot and it's not really a sequel. It's kind of neither. I think James Gunn even said that it is what it is, pretty much. So at the beginning of the movie, they don't really take too much time to really explain things or like set things up because they just know that the first movie kind of explained things already and the general audience already kind of has an idea of what Suicide Squad is. But at the same time, they explain enough to where you don't have to watch the 2016 movie to know what's really going on because they do briefly explain kind of the premise of the Suicide Squad.
It's almost like this movie was made for both people who liked the first Suicide Squad movie and people like us who hated it. It's like the people who loved it, like, well, here's just so you know, this is like you can kind of feel like this is a continuation of the first one if you loved it. You have people like us who want to pretend the first one never existed, you know, and it's not canon, and you can watch this movie as if the first one wasn't canon.
Exactly. Yeah, you can choose whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah, and so that's another really cool aspect of this. You know, I didn't really have to think about. In fact, I don't even know if I really thought about the first one the entire time I was watching this movie.
Right. Yeah.
You know. And so like just like that's saying a lot. Like I wasn't like sitting there like, oh, it's doing this better than the first. I mean, there was a few times where I said that out loud, but it's like it wasn't like coming. It wasn't like overbearing in my mind, you know. But I felt like overall this movie did practically everything better. One of the main things is I feel like, and I don't know if this is really going to spoiler territory or not. I mean, in a sense, it varies depending on how strict you are on spoilers. So I was warning you on that. One thing I really think that this movie did better on, like hands down, the first one. One of the main things I hated about that, and it's one of these things where I think I could have gotten past if it was like good in other ways, but it's the first one from 2016. I felt like it was really stupid that they got this group of people to these villains together to battle against the Enchantress.
Exactly,
because this was a world-destroying enemy. Right.
Yeah, it was a god.
Yeah, it was a god. Why are you like where's Wonder Woman? Where's all these characters?
Especially because I explained in our video back from 2016, our rant video, that Amanda Waller knew about the Justice League members. She knew about Aquaman and Flash and Batman because the end credit scene of the 2016 Suicide Squad is her talking to Bruce Wayne and giving him information about the Justice League members. Yeah. So why didn't she just use those?
Yeah, exactly.
Get those people to handle this.
Yeah, and I know I've seen. Oh, sorry, I just touched the microphone. And I know I've seen some people talk about it to where, and like I said, I don't want to get into a huge rant. I just think it's a good thing to bring up. I know people. I know some people. I've seen people. Some people say, well, they're using them because, you know, if they die, they die. They're just like expendable, you know? I'm like, but still, like, why would you put the fate of the world in these guys? Who at the beginning of they're not really that great of people to begin with. Right. You know, let alone that, they're not really that powerful.
Exactly.
You know, like, why would you actually do that? You know? And so for this movie, I felt like the main threat was actually is understandable why they chose them.
Exactly. And I'm not going to get into spoilers, but once you get near the end, you kind of realize there's an even bigger reason why they'll need Suicide Squad to do this kind of secret mission. Yeah. It just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do... that honestly, just at that standpoint, that makes this movie a lot more enjoyable, a lot more believable. And I mean, I'll use the word immersive. That might be too big of a word to use, but in a sense, yeah. It's like this is a world that actually makes sense now, right? You know, exactly. You know, within that world, it actually makes sense now,
and it fits a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
And just talking about immersiveness, I'm just really happy that studios are more open to making rated R superhero movies now. Just because there's something about rated R movies that just feel more authentic and kind of immersive. I don't know, for lack of a better word. It just feels like it draws me in a lot more just because their world feels a lot more natural when characters are able to use language that normal people use, especially since gore that would happen in this kind of action.
Yeah, sorry. Especially since like these are like legitimately like bad people. These are like murderers. Like, is it like hard to believe that they're gonna throw the F-bomb here and there?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
They kill people. Like, it's, you know, like, or they just, they're like, we'll kill people, but we do not cuss.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
We do not say the F word.
Yeah.
So
and also it like just with the gore, it kind of got kind of dark once you like uncover a lot more of what's going on, and it just kind of became kind of like a horror movie, and it was just kind of interesting to see them actually show a lot of the stuff that they actually showed.
And for the most part, the gore, which did you read that James Gunn had done practical effects for this?
Oh yeah, he used a lot of practical effects.
Other than the obvious stuff,
right? The giant starfish,
yeah, stuff like that.
And also with the CGI that they did use, it was a lot better than a lot of DCEU movies. Because I mean, there's been some good CGI in the DCEU movies, but at the same time, there's a lot of scenes that feel like they don't even take place on Earth, like at all.
Yeah,
just because of all the CGI that's in it. But in this movie, I feel like all the effects, well, for the most part, pretty much all the effects were really good.
Yeah, and I'll also say that this movie, from like an aesthetic point of view, I think that's the right word I'm using. I do think this is probably one of the best looking of the DCEU films.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know what I would put on, if there'd be much I would put on top of it, but it's probably the best looking of the DCEU films. You know,
yeah,
like the backgrounds don't look bad at all. Like you said, like none of it really feels like a green screen. You don't really notice a green screen, you know. If there is one, you know, obviously, and there is some aspects that maybe the green screen could have been better, but it's never like overwhelming.
Yeah, like I think the only time I ever really noticed the green screen was there's one point near the end of the movie whenever Harley Quinn is running from stuff that's crashing down behind her.
Yeah,
but that's like the only time I think I ever really realized that, oh, that's kind of a bad green screen.
Yeah,
all the rest was really good.
Yeah, and obviously like the starfish that you see in the trailer.
Yeah,
like that thing's like, okay, that's obviously CGI.
Yeah, but even then, it still looked pretty good.
Yeah, and so I mean, like other than the obvious stuff, you know, it was practical effects, and it was pretty well done, you know. And so I was just like the gore. If you're going to this movie like for gore, it really has it, and it has it really well. Sometimes it gets really, really gross, but overall, like it's a really well done gore.
Yeah, and I just really hope that they continue being open to these R-rated movies. I mean, obviously where it makes sense.
And another one I want to bring up, and probably one of the best things about this movie, is the comedy works. You know, and I'm surprised we didn't bring this up earlier, but because that was one of our main things about the trailer. We felt like the trailer, none of the comedy worked somehow or another. I don't know what it was, but like whenever we watched this trailer, it some reason or another did not work at all, the jokes. But these same exact jokes that were when they're said in the movie are actually really funny.
Yeah,
and I guess it has to do with like you know the characters now, you know, or you know the feeling. Fits better, you know the feeling of the film now,
right?
You know, and it fits a lot better. All the jokes are a lot better, and I guess so, because like in the trailer you just get these these really quick glimpses of things, you know, and so they just throw the jokes in there. Well, like, you don't really understand what's going, like the characters are. I mean, you understand some of the characters, but the feeling of the movie, and so it works a lot better. Watching the movie, because honestly, I don't really know if there was many jokes that fell flat in this movie. Actually,
there really wasn't.
There were some jokes that were funnier than others, some that were less funnier than others, but overall, there was never like cringe, and most of the jokes really did fit. And I do feel like all the characters were really well cast in this film. I mean, obviously you have the originals, you know, but I do feel like all of the characters were really well casted in this film. You know, Idris Elba, and I think too many people have said this, you know, but if he's in a movie, you just know he's going to do good.
Right, even if the movie's not that good.
Yeah.
He's still good. And
yeah, like I think with Jeremy, I saw Jeremy, a lot of people say it though, like regardless, he's just going to be good. Yeah. You know, Idris Elba in the movie. And so he does really well. It's really cool because you said that he was supposed to have played Deadshot.
Yeah, Will Smith's character from the first one.
Yeah, but then he turn it down, or did he just not get chosen?
No, I think they just decided to make a new character.
And I will say, probably the best she's been, Harley Quinn,
Margot
Robbie as Harley Quinn. I do think that she has always been good.
Yeah.
Even in the original Suicide Squad, she was good. I mean, I think that was probably the worst she had been as Harley Quinn. It was her at the beginning, right, as Harley Quinn.
Right.
So she probably hadn't gotten fully into it yet. I do think that was her worst at being Harley Quinn, but she's always been pretty good.
Right.
But I think that really this right here, everything about it is like, this is Harley Quinn. Like there's nothing about it that feels forced Harley Quinn. It's just Harley Quinn. Because like I said, in the original Suicide Squad 2016, I do feel like she was good, but there's a lot of moments where it felt forced. A lot of moments like, well, she's like, well, I'm supposed to be crazy, so let me act crazy, But this movie, it really did feel like it was a natural craziness, like she's an actual human, she felt like a human that's crazy.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And it also really balanced all the characters pretty well. I didn't really feel like one character got overshined by another. I mean, obviously there's a main core of characters that got more screen time than others, but I feel like they really balanced this big group of people pretty well.
Yeah. And one thing that's really, I loved a lot actually, that I wasn't expecting, Ratcatcher too.
Yeah.
In this movie, she's a really interesting character.
Yeah.
I loved her character.
Yeah, which I think James Gunn even described her as the heart of the film.
Yeah,
she really is.
Yeah, and like she's a really like and like whenever it comes to the emotional scenes, it never feels like they're forcing it on you.
Yeah,
and it's cool because her and Idris Elba's character have like these opposing backstories that kind of make, and I don't want to go full into it, but they have like these opposing backstories onto why they feel a certain way about something in the movie. And it's really interesting, and they're both like legitimately like sad stories, because the whole time there's like a joke with Idris Elba about something, with Ratcatcher, and so like, and whenever you hear the actual backstories on why they feel about these opposing ways about this one thing, then it's like, oh man, that's actually really cool how they did that. Like I said, the heartfelt moments actually do work. And I'm gonna say probably like, maybe not as good as some movies, but like, and I do think, because I've heard some people say that, but I do think they worked as good as they needed to work. And I think one of my favorite things about this movie is that most of the characters are very weird characters. They're very strange comic book characters.
Yeah, very obscure.
Very obscure, and not even just like obscure, but it's like, what in the world? Like, well, for instance, Ratcatcher.
Right, yeah.
Or for instance, Polka Dot Man, King Shark. These weirdly strange characters.
Or that one guy that Nathan Fillion played.
Yeah.
What was his name? I can't really, could detach his arms.
Yeah, he could detach his arms.
And they were like floating.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was like Weasel.
Yeah,
like it was like all the characters they made. It was crazy because like James Gunn actually made them really like good characters.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing, just like James Gunn. Like I've said, like James Gunn. The reason why I was excited about this movie before the trailer is I'm like, James Gunn knows how to do this. And not only does he know how to do this comedy team up movies with like characters with like gray morals, but it's like the idea of like characters are like, why are they doing this? Like, why would you make a movie about this? Like those kind of characters, like for instance, Guardians of the Galaxy. Why? Like whenever it first came out, I was like, what are these characters? A tree and a talking raccoon?
Yeah.
Like whenever because Guardians of the Galaxy were pretty, maybe not extremely obscure, but they were decently, they weren't very popular characters. And he knows the strengths. He knows how to look at characters and find their strengths in order to write them very well in film. Now, personally, I do have some negatives about this movie. I do have like things I didn't like about it for sure, but it honestly, for me at the least, and some people might not feel like this, for me at the least, it's not like a movie I really care to talk negatively about. I felt like it did what it needed to do for the most part. I just didn't really feel the need to talk about it that much.
Yeah, I do have two slight negatives. They're not like super, like they don't take away from the movie that much, but the first one was like whenever there's a few times whenever they would go into characters' backstory. Just specifically off the top of my head, just Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher 2, whenever they went into their backstories throughout the movie, it didn't really feel supernatural. It just felt like a random
that's supernatural.
Yeah, it felt supernatural. No, but it just felt like, okay, we're gonna have a scene where this person explains the backstory so that people know their backstory. I mean, I'm not gonna say it felt nearly as unnatural as the first Suicide Squad movie, when they had those pictures of like their stats and all that at the beginning of the movie, but it still wasn't done that great, but at the same time it wasn't that bad either. But the second one is what's the girl from I Am Legend, the actress? I don't know, you can look it up, but her character felt like she was gonna be a lot bigger of a character in this movie. Whenever she explained that the president had killed her whole family or whatever, but then she kind of disappeared for the rest of the movie until the very end, like just like one scene in the end. So I feel like she could have been a little bit more of an emotional drive of the movie.
Yeah, her name is Alice Braga or Braga. It's probably Braga. Yeah.
Right. And I also really love the editing because like there's at certain points in the movie there's like a title card kind of, and it's kind of like woven into the environment.
Yeah.
And it kind of like it's kind of like made it to be like chapters for the movie.
Yeah.
And I kind of really liked how they incorporated that into the movie. And also just a few little tricks that they did, like there's a Harley Quinn fight scene where she's like shooting guns and like butterflies and flowers pop out and all that. Is pretty cool.
Yeah, which is really cool because I actually thought the title things, whenever they would put like the chapters, I actually thought it was going to come off as really cheesy, but there's just something about it that I really liked.
Yeah.
Like it was really well done. And it really fit with the whole feel of the entire movie.
Exactly.
We are going to say that the Suicide Squad is 90% awesome. Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about the Suicide Squad, whether or not you like the first one or this one better. Because honestly, I mean, if I had to pick and choose, it's in my favorite of the DCEU movies, it would either be Shazam or this one, but I honestly think it's going to be this one.
Yeah,
my favorite DCEU.
Yeah, I honestly want to think about it a little more, but I honestly at this moment it probably is my favorite DCU movie, but I do want to think about it a little more. It definitely is really high up there though on the list.
Exactly.
Anyways, don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all at 2 Awesome Men.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.